Thursday night football, fantasy football this weekend. I was 0-3 in the fantasy this week.
0-3, didn't get one win.
Not one. Man.
I had a big win.
I was 0-3, all three leagues. I came up on the short end of the stick.
That's weak, man.
Yeah.
It's a bad job by you. I got A.J. Green tonight, man. I'm excited.
Well, we'll find out if A.J. Green and others should be in your lineup with Jeff Pasquino from the footballguys.com answering your Week 2 fantasy football questions. Send us a text message, 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. Send us a text, and we will read off some of your fantasy football questions for Week number 2 with Jeff Pasquino from the footballguys.com. He appears via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Jeff, what's going on, man?
All good, Mike. Good to be here.
Yeah, man. Week number 2 as we are now back full force into fantasy football. We got a little better feel of some of these players, I'm sure, after seeing them play for a week. So we got action tonight. Ravens and Bengals. Both teams put up a ton of points last week. 47 from the Ravens, 34 from the Bengals. So which Ravens and Bengals should be in your lineup tonight?
Well, I kind of like the defenses. Now we're into real Thursday night football. We don't have a week plus for everyone to get ready. So I think that this could be a lower scoring game. The guy I like from each side, I like A.J. Green, which I'm sure will please Ryan, and also Alex Collins, I think, for the Ravens, because they're going to favor the running game. He was minimized last week because they had a 3-headed committee. Plus, they got out to a big lead. But now with Kenneth Dixon out, I think that Collins is going to see a big workload tonight.
All right, let's start with the quarterback position as we look at Week 2 of fantasy football with you. Ben Roethlisberger, he doesn't have Le'Veon Bell. He's got to match up with the Chiefs. So is Big Ben a big play this week in fantasy?
I think he is. That Pittsburgh-Kansas City game is a very likely shootout, ready and waiting to happen. Ben needs to get that team a full W. That tie was just like a loss for them last week. But Kansas City is a formidable opponent. Now, the Big Ben has not been practicing the last 2 days, but I think that's a little bit more gamemanship. He's going to be fine. He's going to be ready to go, and they're going to put up a lot of points on Sunday.
How about Deshaun Watson? A lot of people may have jumped early on the in the draft. I know a guy in my draft got him really early. He thought he was going to have a big year. He did not have a very good week. Are you concerned, or should Deshaun Watson fans be concerned?
Be very careful about judging only on 1 week. They were playing the Patriots on the road, so I think that he will get things going forward. And playing at Tennessee, that's a perfect recipe to get to 1-1 and get back on track to head to the playoffs. All
right, another interesting quarterback situation when you look let's go with, where was I? Oh, here we go, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I had him right in front of me, and then my computer kind of blinked on me. But Ryan Fitzpatrick, 4 touchdowns last week. He's going up against Eagles, though, this week. So should you expect more Fitz magic from Fitzpatrick?
You got Deshaun Jackson, who's a little iffy, but again, he loves to play against this old team. I think the Eagles defense is very formidable. I don't think I'd go with Fitzpatrick this week, but never really count him out. But he's in the QB2 category for me this week.
Okay, Russell Wilson up against that Bears team. Now, the Bears looked like they were on their way to a victory until Aaron Rodgers came back, and then Rodgers took them down the field. He ended up with 3 touchdowns after being hurt for a lot of the first half. So should we expect a big week out of Russell Wilson?
He's a borderline quarterback 1. I think the Bears, they did fold late for Gimpy Aaron Rodgers. The problem I have with Seattle right now is that Doug Baldwin's out, and they don't have Jimmy Graham at tight end. So they don't have their very formidable wide receiver 1 option. So Russell Wilson's okay. He's not fantastic.
All right, Drew Brees, interesting. Last week they got to a shootout with Tampa Bay, and you look at Drew Brees this time around in week number 2. Do we think we see another big week from Drew Brees?
One of the things you look for week 2 is teams that cannot start 0-2. So that the Saints fall in that category. Hosting Cleveland, this is about the best spot for them to bounce back and get a win that they desperately need. We actually have Drew Brees rated as the number 1 quarterback this week.
There you go, Drew Brees fans out there. All right, let's go over to some running backs and get Jeff's take on the running back spot here. It's week number 2. And what are you doing in the running back? I know you're a big Burkhead fan, but he might be out this week. So what's going on with the running back spot in New England?
I think you're down to Burkhead and James White. He's only 2 healthy bodies right now. Sonny and Michael, and other options are just not healthy. So those are the 2 guys. James White is gold in PPR leagues. I think he's going to see a lot of targets and touches until we get some other guys back healthy and off of suspension for the Patriots. Those are the 2 guys I'd favor. I don't have an issue with either one of those as a running back 2 this week.
Okay, it looks like Devonta Freeman's a little banged up there. Are you playing Tevin Coleman this week?
I am, especially, again, in PPR leagues. When he was out, he's averaging almost 20 carries per week when Freeman is out. So I think Tevin Coleman is definitely a running back 2 solid play this week.
Jay Ajayi show enough last week for the Eagles. He got 2 touchdowns. Did he show you enough that he should be a fantasy player in your lineup this week?
I think there's a bit of a game script issue there that he didn't get more touches. Keep an eye on the fact that we've got some injuries for the Eagles at running back. I think we don't have a full slate of guys there. So if we're not going to have everybody available, I think Jay Ajayi is definitely an option at running back 2 this week.
All right, talk with Jeff Pasquino, footballguys.com. We see some of your fantasy football questions coming in on the text board, 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. Ryan is compiling some of the best questions for Jeff. We'll continue taking a look at some running backs here. And what about Royce Freeman? There was a lot of excitement about him in the first week of the season, and I don't know that he lived up to it. So what are you doing with Royce Freeman owners?
I think he's a wait-and-see guy. I think the guy to go pick up, and one of the hot names that's being circulated for a waiver wire, is Phillip Lindsay for Denver. He had a lot of touches and a lot of production last week. He was an undrafted free agent out of a small school in Colorado, but he's very productive, and they used him a lot. So I think he's the guy to grab, and I think you got a 3-headed committee, but Lindsay is probably on a lot of waiver wires, and he should not be.
All right, don't forget, Jeff will give you some of his favorite plays and some sleepers and some waiver wire guys at the end of our conversation here. Let's go to some wide receivers and get your take. Let's start off with Josh Gordon. He was a guy that he ended up scoring last week, but this week Hugh Jackson says expect more targets. Does that mean more Josh Gordon in more lineups?
I think he should be. I think he's going to, again, that's another game that could be very high scoring. The Saints gave up 48 points last week. And Josh Gordon was put on what they called a pitch count or a play count last week. So I think he proved very much in that fourth quarter that he was able to play all a game and be very productive even into overtime. So I think he's a solid wide receiver 3 with very good upside in that contest.
All right. How about in Philadelphia? You have no Alshon Jeffrey. He had 8 catches for 33 yards for Nelson Aguilar. But was that a display that should make fantasy fans happy in week number 2?
Well, in PPR leagues, yeah, I don't think any catches however many yards he gets, but I think that he's a solid wide receiver 2 this week. Again, he's going to get volume just because he's the guy. Mike Wallace didn't do anything. I think it's going between him and the tight ends for the Eagles this week.
All right. How about you go to Minnesota? Stephon Diggs, he had a great first half of the year last year. Now he has Kirk Cousins here, had a touchdown last week. So what are you doing with Stephon Diggs?
I think he's a solid wide receiver 2 with some upside. Same for Adam Thielen. But I really like Dalvin Cook to be used more and more in that offense. And now we got a game on the road at Green Bay. They get a shorter week and I'm backing the quarterback. But I think Minnesota may try and go in there and steal a game and run the ball with Dalvin Cook a lot. So I think everybody is a viable option for a very explosive Vikings offense. But I really like Dalvin Cook the most right now for the upside. If you can go get him on a trade, I would do that.
All right. Don't forget, send us your questions for Jeff, 609-403-0973. We'll get to those in just a second. I want to ask you about Chris Hogan. He was a big disappointment last week. He had, 1 catch for 11 yards. Does Hogan bounce back this week for the Patriots owners?
The only receiver I like is Rob Gronkowski right now for the Patriots and James White. So neither of them are wide receiver eligible. So not really in a nutshell. Plus it's Jacksonville. So I'm going to lean away from that front. And if I want anything in the passing game, I'll take Tom Brady. Just gather it all.
All right. Before we get to some questions here, 609-403-0973. We'll take some questions. I do want to ask you real quick on the tight end spot, which we don't do a lot of, but that's a position that really kind of factors in. And Jared Cook had a big week for the Raiders last week, and I'm wondering from some fans out there, is Jared Cook now a steady tight end play for fantasy football?
Steady, no, because I think the quarterback position with Derek Carr is very up and down right now with the Raiders, and they're not happy with how he's playing. But Cook did get some targets, and against Denver, they're not very good against tight ends. So I like Cook this week as a lower-end tight end 1.
All right, we'll get some picks from Jeff, some of his plays of the week and stuff, but let's get a couple of questions from the listeners out there. Ryan, what do you got?
All right, one question here from the listener. Kieran Johnson, Sony Michael, or Geronimo Allison? Doug Baldwin is out. and he can't start Hearns or Gallup with any confidence, Jeff.
I like Kerryon Johnson. I think that San Francisco-Detroit game is going to be another high-scoring game. I like both offenses in that contest.
All right, sit one. Hopkins, OBJ, Tyreek Hill, or Julio Jones?
Wow, that's quite the list.
Yeah, that's a loaded list. That guy's got a good problem.
Yeah, that's a good problem to have. I don't think you have any issue there. I would probably sit Odell Beckham Jr., but all those guys are wide receiver, one caliber, so can't go wrong.
All right, pick one. Cam Newton versus Atlanta or Patrick Mahomes against the Steelers?
Patrick Mahomes, only because that offense is really going through him and him getting the ball quickly out of his hands into his receivers. I think that game could be 34-31, so I really like Mahomes this week.
All right, PPR, Jared Cook or Mike Wallace?
Oh, Jared Cook, absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. All right, that's all I got here from the listeners, Jeff.
All right, we'll get some more questions in for you guys out there. And don't forget, Jeff, we got the lineups, get them set tonight. But before we go, give us some guys, some under-the-radar guys and some players in your lineup this week.
Guys, I like to bounce back this week at quarterback. I like Jimmy Garoppolo against Detroit because they look terrible against the Jets, so that's a good recipe for success. And Tyrod Taylor against the Saints this week. I think both those guys are going to do well. At running back, I think Adrian Peterson against the Colts looks to be in a good position. We talked about James White. TJ Yeldon, keep him on speed dial because Fournette may be a game-time decision. At wide receiver, pick up Tyler Lockett or even Brandon Marshall. At wide receiver, who, as we mentioned earlier, Doug Baldwin is out. Keep an eye on Marcus Goodwin for the San Francisco 49ers. And I really like Kenny Golladay on the other side for Detroit. Lastly, for the Saints, we got some injury issues at wide receiver, so Traquan Smith or Cameron Meredith may be very viable this week at wide receiver, too, in a shootout.
All right, there's some plays from Jeff Pasquino from the footballguys.com. Make sure you get your lineup set and everything for week number 2. If you got players tonight, get them in. Jeff, good luck to you.
Good luck, everybody. Enjoy the games.